Into another episode of Locked On Phillies. And last night was a very frustrating one for the Philadelphia Phillies. They implode in extra innings. They lose to the Reds. They're 1-3 to start the year. A question: is there trouble with the bullpen, or is it just trouble with a couple of guys? We'll break down the overall view of the bullpen, which has been not a bright spot for the Phillies to start the season. And I've also got a weather update for you for the next couple games of this series with the Reds, because it's a little bit rainy here in Philadelphia. All of that on today's episode of Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Thank you so much for checking us out. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. Really appreciate anyone who's done that and anyone who's going to do that. It really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. What would really help us out on Locked On Phillies as well is if the Phillies would stop playing like a team that doesn't know how to play baseball. Another loss last night for the Phillies, and I'm getting frustrated. I'm not saying this team stinks. I'm not worried about them overall, but it's frustrating to see a team this talented lose in the ways that they've been losing, and the bullpen has not been good. Last night, there were some good things, right? There were some good moments for the Philadelphia Phillies when you look at the way they attacked the Cincinnati Reds. I mean, Christopher Sanchez had himself a really nice start for the Philadelphia Phillies. Alec Boehm had that RBI double in the bottom of the first to really get the scoring started, and you thought, okay, the Phillies are going to get something going. It's kind of like cued off the end of the bat. So it wasn't great contact from Boehm, but that's all right. And Christopher Sanchez, like, he was really good. 5 innings, gave up 5 hits, 2 earned. But, I mean, you'll take that. 8 strikeouts. You'll take that every time from your number 5 pitcher once Taijuan Walker's healthy. Christopher Sanchez, Zach Wheeler, Ranger Suarez, 3 of your 4 starting pitchers have looked really good. So that's the good stuff. Let's talk about the bad stuff. And I'm going to leave the worst for last, but for Johan Rojas, dude, throw us a bone, my guy. Like, I need something positive from Johan Rojas more than just the defense. Do I think he would have made a play in the first inning that Brandon Marsh couldn't get to? Yeah. But then you pinch run for Kyle Schwarber in a huge spot in the 8th inning, and you know what happens? You get picked off of second base. Like, that cannot happen. The main asset that Johan Rojas brings to this team is speed and athleticism, right? I know that's 2 things, but they kind of go hand in hand. It helps him be a great defensive outfielder, helps him be, in theory, a great base runner. But if you're getting picked off in big spots from second base on an inside move, it's unacceptable. Like, that is something that in the college ranks would be unacceptable. In the high school ranks would get you yelled at least by your coach. But, man, at the major league level, it just cannot happen. So not a great showing from Johan Rojas in a big spot. Really cost the Philadelphia Phillies. I know there was a strikeout right after, so you might say, oh, it doesn't matter. It changes the way you pitch when there's not a guy on second base in scoring position that's amazingly fast. So brutal mistake there. He's still young. Like, let's remember that. It's not that he's Ben Revere, right? And Ben Revere could hit. He just couldn't hit for power. But it's not like he's Ben Revere, where he's a speedy defensive outfielder who's been up in the major leagues for a handful of years and then comes to Philadelphia. This is still a young kid. So just because he can't hit doesn't mean he has everything else figured out. He's good defensively. He's fast. He's still got a feel for the game that he's got to develop at the major league level. Those mistakes, though, are inexcusable. And I'm a huge Johan Rojas guy. Like, I think the Philadelphia Phillies need him to be good for them to be good. But, okay, maybe not that. But it makes it much easier for them to be good if he is good. And making mistakes like he did last night, help me out, dude. I'm trying to defend you. Can't keep having that. But the real problem here, right? I feel bad because he's a fellow Connor. And out of respect for our shared name, I'll try and be nice, but it's hard to be when I talk about Connor Brogdon right now. This dude is just not a major league pitcher. He comes in the 10th inning. A lot of people probably felt like this game was over the second he entered the ballgame, even though it was tied. and they were going to the 10th. But he's not a major league caliber pitcher right now. I don't know if he ever will be. I'm not a huge Connor Brogdon fan. I have not been a huge Connor Brogdon fan. He could not find his way onto the major league roster last year. The only reason he's up now is because he has, I messed this up before, my apologies. Thank you to the YouTube commentator who pointed out, has no options. So, like, you can't send him down. He'd have to be released. So you want him on the major league roster, which makes sense because you're in a position where you don't want to send him down through waivers and someone claims him and you lose an arm that at least has major league experience that you've had. But my goodness, dude, Lehigh Valley is the next stop for Connor Brogdon. It's just got to be. Awful command. Can't find it. He talked after the game about mechanics, and sometimes he's thinking about every step of his mechanics while he's out there on the mound. The dude is so in his head right now. The results are not there. I know it's early in the season, but last year he wasn't good enough to make the team. And the year before, he like kind of fell off at the end. You could see that he lost it a little bit. They tried to get him mentally to where he needs to be, physically to where he needs to be. He can't cut it as a major league pitcher right now. He can't be on this team. He can't get innings on this team. He certainly can't get innings in the 10th inning. Now, what I will say is Rob Thompson is a little bit hamstrung right now by injuries. Luis Ortiz goes down. Ryan Kirkring's still not up with the team. So you don't exactly have the cream of the crop for what you thought your bullpen was going to be. We're going to talk about more of that coming up in a little bit, but I don't know any other way to say it, right? It's hard for me to put it fully on Topper, but he can't go to Connor Brogdon in the 10th inning. Like, you can't do that. You got to have somebody, anybody else on this major league roster go ahead and throw. Because if Connor Brogdon's coming in the game, it's going to be an unmitigated disaster. He's proven that to us. He proved it to us with his inability to be on the team last year, and he proved it to us through the first couple of appearances he's made so far this year. The guy, if you are up 10 or down 10, you can give him an inning. But short of the game being out of hand one way or another, he cannot have any type of high leverage, low leverage, any leverage situations. Connor Brogdon cannot touch the mound. And Ryan Kirkring, he was sick during spring training. That's why he started the year on the injured list. He's already started a rehab assignment. He pitched down in AAA. He's going to come back up on April 9th. Right now it's April 2nd, so we have 7 days, a week's worth of time to kill. But if he hasn't been sent down by this point, talking about Connor Brogdon, when April 9th rolls around, it should be Orion Kirkring added back up to the major league roster, and Connor Brogdon should be sent down to Lehigh Valley. That's just where I'm at. The guy's not helping the team. I know how much trouble these ball players go through and everything. And I'm not trying to this guy, his career's over. No, but when you see a pitcher that clearly can't cut it at the major league level, this is not the Oakland Athletics. This is not the Colorado Rockies. This is not the Washington Nationals. This is a team that's supposed to be competing for a World Series, and you cannot have non-competitive major league pitchers in this bullpen. And that's what Connor Brogdon is. That's what he was last night. That's what he was on opening day against the Braves. That's what he's been for a while now. And the fact that the Philadelphia Phillies thought that he could be a piece that they could use at the major league level was frankly a mistake. It was. I don't know who they would have put on besides him. They had other options. Nick Nelson gets brought up for the Luis Ortiz injury. I don't know how much I trust Nick Nelson either, because he's looked rough lately, but it's not a situation where you can afford to give innings to Connor Brogdon, and it's not a situation where you can afford to have guys in the bullpen you can't use. So something has to change. The Phillies need to make a change in that. And I know people are talking about the offense, and they only scored 3 runs in the game against the Reds, and it looked like they were going to break out. Then they get super quiet during the middle innings. They scattered hits. I mean, they had 7 hits in the game, so it's not a lot, but it's not like they got shut down by any stretch. It's just they didn't do enough offensively either, putting approaches together or things like that. I trust that the offense is going to come around. I trust that Bryce Harper is going to hit. Don't let me catch anyone worried about Bryce Harper right now. We know who this guy is. We know how good he is at the game of baseball. There's no reason to worry about Bryce Harper. long term. He's going to start hitting. He's been a little bit unlucky, just been hitting the ball hard places, and he's not getting rewarded for it. I still think Trey Turner's going to hit. Kyle Schwarber's shown he's coming around. JT Realmuto's coming around. Like, Castellanos is a mixed bag. He's streaky. He's similar to Rhys Hoskins, where he'll have a stretch where he's the best hitter in baseball, and then he'll forget how to hit. That just is what it is. Alec Boehm has had a really good start to the season. Like, there are bright spots to the offense. They just haven't put it all together yet. To me, the more troubling thing is you can't have Connor Brogdon get innings anymore out of the bullpen. He cost you that game last night by giving up a grand slam to Spencer Steer in the 10th inning, and that put you in a situation where you're now 1-3 to start the year. So, not good. We're going to dive deeper into the bullpen coming up, though. And I'm going to look at some of the guys and how they've started their year and what their numbers look like. And we need to have a discussion. Is this the Phillies bullpen is not as good as we thought? Or is this they have just a guy here or there that's causing problems for the team at large? We'll talk about it coming up as we continue Locked On Phillies. I got to tell you about this, though, man. Fire TV is your destination for sports. From live games to highlights to in-depth analysis, Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs. And you can get the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV. That gives you access to millions of movies and TV episodes. You get free and live TV. It's all kinds of sports, opening baseball weeks and everything, the college basketball tournament. You're going to want to have a Fire TV for big sporting events. You're also going to want it because Fire TV created Fire TV channels. It delivers a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. And that includes us here at Locked On. So go ahead and check it out. Then you got most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. You can do all that. Plus, you can get everything taken care of from great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos, all of that stuff available on Fire TV channels. And you got to check out Fire TV on that and Alexa devices. So if you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/lockedonfiretv. All right, let's talk a little bit about the bullpen and the struggles so far, because it hasn't been great, folks. It really hasn't been great. Now, is this a situation? I know I kind of already posed the question to you, but is this a situation where this bullpen is not as good as we thought? Is it too early, or is it individual guys that are causing problems? Now, the answer to those questions, if I'm going with the short answer, is the whole bullpen stinks? No. Is it too early to be having this conversation about like the whole bullpen and being worried about them? Rather, we can have the conversation, but being worried about them? Yes. And is it individual guys? Also, yes. Let's look at some of these numbers, right? Let's look at where some of these guys are. Junior Marte, for example, he's been pretty darn good. He's not a guy that I think you can count on, but love that. Alvarado's ERA is high, but he just had a bad opening day against the Braves. I still trust Jose Alvarado. I really do. Jeff Hoffman's nasty. That guy is really good. He might have a chance to be, like, if he keeps doing this, all-star Jeff Hoffman. It's very, very early. He's only pitched 2 2/3 innings, but he just looks dominant out there. Matt Strahm had a rough opening day. He's looked like he settled in a little bit. Seranthony Dominguez hasn't been completely sharp, but I like what I see, right? I like what I'm looking at when I see Seranthony Dominguez out there on the mound. Gregory Soto, he's got 1 1/3 innings pitched. He's allowed 1 hit, but he's got a 0 ERA. Listen, I'd be using Soto. Luis Ortiz obviously goes down with injury. Nick Nelson has only made 1 appearance so far, and it was for a third of an inning. So let's look at the individuals, right? Because I'm telling you, the bullpen is not bad. The Philadelphia Phillies do not have a bad bullpen. They don't. What's the issue? Well, they're in a situation where they have a couple guys injured. Ryan Kerkering. Also, I think Luis Ortiz goes down, who I do think Luis Ortiz is potentially a usable major league bullpen pitcher. But tell me this. Do you trust Jose Alvarado still? Because I absolutely do. Do you trust Jeff Hoffman? Do you trust Matt Strahm? Do you trust that guys like Seranthony Dominguez and Gregory Soto, maybe they're not as consistent right now, but do they have the stuff to be dominant? Yes. And then you have the guys like Junior Marte and Nick Nelson, Ortiz, who's not with the team right now, but Ortiz, Connor Brogdon. And you say, okay, I don't think this bullpen is just – and Connor Brogdon's numbers. He's got 6 walks in 2 innings pitched. He has 6 earned runs in 2 innings pitched. He has 3 hits in 2 innings pitched. His WHIP is 4.5. His ERA is 27. That is highest on the ball club, tied with Luis Ortiz for that. But, it's just – he's killing you right now from a bullpen perspective. But Connor Brogdon not being good doesn't make the bullpen not good. And the bad opening day performance by the bullpen against the Braves doesn't mean that this bullpen is bad overall. That's also a really good baseball team down there in Atlanta that you saw in the opening series. The Reds, you saw that they're very, very beatable. The problem is the Philadelphia Phillies didn't close them out when they had the chance, and then they got into the extra innings, and they were dead before they had a chance because Rob Thompson decided Connor Brogdon was the guy to use. Bad decision. Connor Brogdon was on the roster. Bad decision. Connor Brogdon didn't pitch well. Not surprising. But that doesn't – what I don't want is for people to just say, oh, blanket statement, the Phillies bullpen isn't good. We got duped when Major League Baseball put out the power rankings for the bullpen, said they're number 1 in the power rankings. No, and just start saying guys like Alvarado or Hoffman stink. Strom's unusable. Dominguez not having the bounce back here we thought. Soto shouldn't have traded for him. They're really good arms in this bullpen. You're just not employing them correctly, or depending on how you're looking at it, that you could be employing them in a way that you believe in them. They're just not. The other guys are not coming up strong. They're not coming up big in spots where you really, really need them to. I hate to make this just the Connor Brogdon episode because there are other issues facing the Phillies. We talked about Rojas getting picked off. Talked about Bryce Harper's slow start to the year offensively. This team hasn't been scoring runs at the clip you'd expect them to. Normally that comes around hitting season in Philadelphia is certainly something that people believe is a thing. When the weather gets warmer, they hit better, which makes sense. But still, there are other teams in cold weather climates scoring a lot of runs right now. The Philadelphia Phillies are not one of them. So there are other issues. It's not just the bullpen, but I felt last night it was important to – someone honks the most annoying horn in the world outside of my apartment. There's a point that we need to get to where we understand that it's just a couple of individuals in the bullpen that are crushing this team, and the main one is Connor Brogdon. You can't throw him anymore, but 1-3 is not the end of the world. Everybody take a deep breath. They started off 1-5 last year. So you're going to get to a point with the Philadelphia Phillies where they look much more like the team that they're supposed to look like. And it doesn't have to happen on April 2nd or 3rd or really, the month of April. I'd like to see them play better, but we're not in dire straits by any stretch of the imagination. Connor Brogdon's time with the Phillies probably should be, but the Philadelphia Phillies bullpen as a whole and team as a whole are not in a spot where we should be worried about them yet. It's just a frustrating loss last night, and one that you're going to have to try and bounce back from the next time you get a chance. Now, that's the question. When will the next time be that you get a chance? Because the weather here in Philadelphia is nuts right now, not in a good way. So coming up as we wrap up Locked On Phillies, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's going on here weather-wise, what my expectation for the way they handle it is in this series, and how the schedule shakes out over the next couple of days. So we'll get into that as we wrap up just an absolutely fun and happy episode of Locked On Phillies. You're kidding me, this team. All right, let's talk about FanDuel. This is fun and happy. The sports calendar is loaded, and FanDuel is making it even more exciting to get in on the action because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet the tourney. MLB, NBA, NHL, and so much more. The tourney's awesome. The Sixers look really good. Well, they looked really good against Toronto. Embiid might be coming back. Keep an eye on that. The Phillies, maybe they break out. You can make some money on that. The Flyers making a playoff push. It's not the best time in Philadelphia right now, but it's a interesting time, and that means you've got so much you can bet on with FanDuel. It's $200 that you can use on all of that when you make your first $5 bet and win. And just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon, and you can get that started. You can make your first bet a big win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Finally, okay, weather. It's not fun. And I used to know this guy who would tell me it's stupid that all baseball stadiums are outside, or a lot of baseball stadiums are outside. I know there's some domes and everything, but he's like, rain delays are dumb. It's like, no, the atmosphere of a baseball game, being outside for that, and just kind of hanging out on a nice summer day, that's kind of the point. And then when you get to this time of year, you get to the rainy season in the Northeast, normally it's April, and you see how many games get pushed and the schedule gets super complicated. You're like, man, it would be nice if they just were able to play the same schedule. That's probably me getting older. In my old age, I need my sleep more, the ripe old age, 29. But enough about me. Here's what the weather looks like for the next couple of days. Today, looks like rain all day. There's an 80% coverage, basically all the way through. Locally, heavy rainfall possible, according to the weather app. Winds east to northeast at 10 to 20 miles an hour. I mean, it's miserable. It carries on through the night. It doesn't look like the Philadelphia Phillies are going to be able to play tonight. So I don't believe there's going to be a game. If there is a game, it's going to be Ashcraft versus Spencer Turnbull. And you'll get to see Spencer Turnbull's first action as a member of the Philadelphia Phillies. What do the Phillies need to work on? Everything we talked about in the first two segments. So that's kind of your preview. There's not too much to look into with this upcoming game. You know who's going to be getting after it and playing and everything. But so today doesn't look good. That's game 2 of the series. Also, tomorrow doesn't look good, and it's a business person special. The Wednesday game is earlier on in the day. So you're looking at a situation, I believe it's a 1 o'clock start scheduled for tomorrow's game. Let me just double check on that for you. 1:05, yep, for tomorrow's game. It's supposed to rain all through the day tomorrow too. So I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow's rained out. I wouldn't be surprised if tonight is rained out. But the good news is the Phillies and the Reds both have an off day on Thursday. So what could possibly happen is today gets postponed, tomorrow gets postponed. Thursday, you could see a day-night doubleheader. You could see the first doubleheader of the Philly season as early as games 5 and 6 of the year. So that's not ideal, especially given the Phillies pitching situation, but it is what it is. You can only do so much about the rain. It seems like we're going to not see baseball for a couple of days. That would be my guess, but who knows? The weather's constantly changing. The radar always shifts. So keep an eye out on that if you're planning on going down. I haven't heard anything that they're postponing it. No official words been made as time of my recording this. Keep an eye out because it doesn't seem like we've got a great chance to play baseball, at least in my opinion. But that's fine because I could use a day or two off from this team already. They need to figure it out, and we're going to continue to talk about it as they try to. But that's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. So thank you so much for checking us out here. Appreciate it very much. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I will talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.